demise.
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy.
Jumping back to the Commodores, did you run their fan club? I thought I saw that. And what was all the totality of what you did related to the Commodores?
Well, just trying to find something to do, So when I used to go up to the office when my godfather moved his office from Harlem down to 55th Street in Manhattan between 5th and Madison Avenue. I used to go to the office every day. I was the shorty of the crew. I would run around every time the Commodores, when I was too young to drive. Every time the Commodores came to New York, my godfather would send me with them to show whoever was driving how to get around the city. So he'd give me the address here, take them here. They got this to do. They got this to do. You got to pick up my watch from the shop. You got to pick up my dry cleaning on the way, and then take the guys there. And every time they came to New York, he put me in the car with them. I used to step over the Commodores, sleeping on his floor in Lenox Terrace at his apartment. Go, here's somebody got something to do here. You know the city, take them around. My godfather paid me $150 a week and kept the money because he said, I can't even give you that much money at one time. I'm like, yo, what do you think? But you're the boss's kid. You ain't gonna need nothing. And so every time before I learned how to drive, every time they came to New York, I was the guy who went out and showed them where to go and where to go in New York. And I did, and then work the shows. I was at the show at the Garden that they did with Bob Marley. And again, this is just the most creative. My godfather, along with Frankie Crocker, who was the most prominent R&B DJ in the country on the East Coast. Frankie Crocker had a show on WBLS. And Frankie Crocker, my godfather, and the Madison Square Garden management my godfather put together the show. Curtis Blow, Bob Marley, and the Commodores. Now, back then, Curtis Blow had just come out. Rap music was very young. And people were like, what are you? And that's the way concerts should have been.
So he had the breaks out at that point?
He had the breaks out, basketball, whatever.
So it must have been like 81, 82, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around that, before 85, because when I got to 1985, I started road managing a young LL Cool J.
He started out, I think he was like 15 with his first record.
He was 16 years old. I had met Andre Harrell from the group Jekyll and Hyde. And he pulled me from, I don't know how, but he pulled me, said, man, I want you to run out here with because he knew I was with Ashford and Simpson. So he said, I got this young kid, 16 years old, and I need a road manager for him. I was the first person to take LL to Japan. I was the first person to go with LL to London on his promotional tour. And all we did was have press come to the hotel. But LL was 16. I met his mother, his father, I knew his grandmother. And I was, but I always looked young. So, people always treated me like so one day we were up at Def Jam with LL. I was up at Def Jam with LL and we had something to do the next morning. So I drove him. I lived in Queens and so did he. I took him home in my car one night, late. It was like 10, 11 o'clock. I said, look, Al, you got an early flight. He hated to get up in the morning. I had to beat him up to get up in the morning. The whole kid thing, right? I said, look, man, get some rest. We got an early flight in the morning, an early day in the morning. Again, I never forget this. I got back in my car. He went into his house. I got back in my car, Scott, and I drove I don't know how I knew. I drove exactly around the block. When I came back to his front door, he was coming out the front door. I said, Negro, where are you going? You just told me you were going to bed. I drove around the block. And he said, oh, Stu, I got to give it to you, man. I said, Negro, what do you think I am? I am smarter than you. You better start listening. But that was our relationship. I brought his first gold record to his house to give to his grandmother and his parents. I was, and this is again, but I'll never forget that night, man. I caught him red-handed. I said, Negro, you know who you messing with. I am a veteran. I know just what I drove exactly around and the timing was perfect because as soon as I pulled in the front of his door, he was backing out the door, closing the screen door. I was like, Todd, where you going? Get your... But you had to play father, you had to play production guy, and
did he have on his Kango hat?
This was right after the movie Crush Groove.
Yeah.
He was the star of that movie. And, I was with him. He was the first guy who had a rap love song with I Need Love. And he asked me one day, what was the attraction? And I said, well, L, when a girl walks up to Run from Run DMC, they don't want to sleep with him. They want to sleep with you. You the sex symbol of rap right now. They not trying to... Run DMC ain't the sex symbols. You the sex symbol of rap right now.
And it sure ain't the Fat Boys. Yeah.
And it ain't the Fat Boys were, they would beef. They had beef with us. They were, yeah, man. So from the time he was 16 till he was 18, I was his tour manager. And when he turned 18, all of his contracts became null and void. So he threw the Russell Simmons contract, he threw it on my desk. He said, man, read this. What do you think I should do? I was like, well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is I'm not going to get killed telling you anything because right now you're free. You can go anywhere and do anything you want, or everything you signed up until now is gone. The contract was about, and he signed with Russell a 10-album deal.
Wow.
And the rest is history, man. So he and I, kind of grew up together a little bit. I was the first person to take him to Japan. It's the first time I ever seen Japanese people with dreadlocks and hip hop, in hip hop style. And I got my name on the wall of some clubs in Japan. I can't remember the names. We just wrote our names. So, hey, LL Stu was here, And I was the first person to take him to London. And all we did was sit in the hotel room for 3 days and have all the the press come to us, and then we would go hang out.
Was he a funk fan at all?
Oh yes, oh yes. I took him to an Ashford and Simpson show. After I got away from him, I took him to an Ashford and Simpson show, and he was blown away. He was blown away. And I believe, out of that era, the three most famous rappers to this day, four that have started out, because when we were when I was doing LL, the security was the cops would be at the gateway of the planes that we were getting off of, because we were causing so much ruckus on planes. They would call security on us all the time. So yeah, man,
Stuart, check it out. In '86, I was at the Rap Fest at Long Beach Arena that had LL on the bill, Run DMC, Houdini, and that's the famous one where they had the big riot with the Crips and the Bloods, and we had to rush out of there, feared for our lives. We're hiding underneath the bleachers. People were getting hit over the heads with chairs. People were going in the parking lot in their trunks and pulling out guns. It was crazy, man.
When I did a show with LL in Arkansas, and the whole show, there was one gang set on one side. There was nobody in the center, and there was one other set, and all they were doing is flashing signs the whole show, like they were gonna fight. But they never got to the fight. But LA, they went wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at least 60, 70 people got hospitalized from it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that was the sign of the times, and just those gangs. And I never forget that, man. I couldn't believe it. The whole night LL was performing, these gangs are just on the side facing each other.
It was threatening. It was tense, right? Because I saw it. I saw it starting to begin and escalate, because I was on the floor and I could see all around. I'm like, this isn't good, man.
Yep. And then I got away from LL when his father. We were doing a show in New Orleans. LL's father had shot his mother in the face, and she separated from him. And then we were doing a show, headlining a show in New Orleans. And L came backstage and said, "My father's here. What should I do?" He was talking to me like, "Right, what should I do, Stu?" I said, "Well, first of all, that's your father." Right? Then his father started messing with the money, and I quit. Because I didn't want to be involved with the box office. I didn't want to be involved. My job was behind the scenes, behind the stage. The box office was another animal. And, people were ripping them off left and right. The producer of our show, we had fog machines and all kinds of stuff that LL was paying for that never got used. We did the Walking with the Panther album. Matter of fact, LL wrote his second album in my hotel room. We had single rooms, and he would never sleep in his own room. I'd be under my covers trying to get, and he would knock on my door and say, "Hey man, move over," and get on top of my blanket and sit and write all night, talking to me. I'm like, "Yo, I gotta, man," and that.
Were you still associated with him at all when he had the big Cool Mo D beef?
Yeah. And it wasn't, and that was really, and I remember finding out the story about how the publicist was taking the photo for the Cool Mo D album and stuck the Kango underneath the wheel of the truck. Right. She did that. Right. See, and that's the outside influence of beefs. Mo D would have never thought of that. But the publicist took the Kango and put it underneath the tire of and then, I didn't understand that. I didn't think that LL copied Mo D's style. He just, because LL was writing.
They were both
LL was a beast.
They were just both good. I mean,
LL was a beast. LL was a beast on them lyrics.
And back then they were keeping it to the lyrics and not taking it, escalating like it happened later, you know?
Right. And yeah, and then you know, but let's talk Cameo, man. Cameo. I remember watching Cameo when Larry Blackmon was coming out the coffin. Did you ever see? Remember that?
What year is that about?
Oh shit! This was, you know, 80s, early 80s. The Cameo show was very, very, again, like a play, like a right, and they had a coffin. Larry Blackmon would come out the coffin with the fog, the dry ice fog all over the place, and dark, and then the coffin would lay down, and then it would sit up like this, and he would come out, and it would blow, and it was just theatrics, you know, comedy, theatrics, and video all in one, and again, you know, Wayne.
What?
Wayne was still in the group. Yeah, man, and he was the show.
You didn't have to ever like look after his codpiece, did you?
No. I never did Word.
From like Word on up. I guess before Word Up, he started wearing that. Actually.
Oh yeah. That was his. Yeah. And then and Tommy and I are still good. Keep in touch. I came on Cameo with Cameosis.
Tommy's another one like Steve Arrington, who's also like a funk historian and such a great crusader for it.
When I was in my godfather's office a lot, Rick James used to call all the time and mess with him about, you know, who's going to be, you know, who's got this and who's got that. Then I went to work for Rick right after he got out of jail. I was actually engaged to his sister. And I lived in Teena Marie's house. When I first went to work for Teena Marie, Rick was still in jail. Teena Marie had put out Passion Play on her own label. I got a call from a friend of mine who had, who's worked for these different promoters, and he asked me, he said, "Oh, Stu, you doing anything?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, I got somebody that needs a production manager yesterday." He said, "But it's a female." And I was playing around. I said, I like females. Go ahead. Continue. He said, "And she just had a baby." I said, "I like babies. Continue." Right? He said, "Teena Marie," I said, "Book the flight." He said, "I didn't even tell you how much." Book the flight. Passion Play. It was her own label, her own music, and Rick's sister was her manager. Now, Teena Marie had always been like an enigma. I had always heard, I loved her music to death. I had never seen her in concert. She never really came to the East Coast a lot that I knew of. But when I got to her house for rehearsals, Danny Lamel was the MD. Blow Danny, right? Jimmy Stewart, different drummers, blase. So Teena put me in the hotel the first 2 days I got there. So the third day she said, "Look, Stu, we're more of a family here. I got a room in my house. Come on out the hotel. Come on and let's commune together." And Teena and Penny, which is Rick's sister, had babies at the same time. They had planned it to have their kids at the same time. So now I'm on a tour bus running the show with Teena and her baby, 3-year-old Alia, Rose, and Penny with her daughter, Malaya, on the tour. I got two, now I'm babysitting.
And nursery.
And living in Teena's house.
Sure, Uncle Stuart.
Uncle Stuart.
Well, Teena must have had that baby kind of late, though, age-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, but they planned it. They took off time, and Teena and Penny were, like soul sisters. And they all lived together in the same house in Pasadena. And we ran our stuff from her house. And the tour bus came and picked us up from her house and dropped us off at her house. And I had to get away. I was going to marry Penny too, but then Rick died. We did a show at Universal Amphitheater. When Rick got out of jail, he went on and did some stuff with the band by himself, some shows by himself. I met them in Atlantic City. And then Rick wasn't satisfied with that. And then he asked Teena, he said, can I do one more tour with you? Let's, go close this out with a bang. And she said, okay. But then she said, Penny is going to be running this tour. And everything she says, you got to do. So she wrote ironclad contracts, right? So we go to Universal Amphitheater for 2 shows in LA. The first show, Rick brings his lawyers to the gig because he wants more money now. Right? Brought his lawyers. Penny whipped out the contract. The lawyer said, Rick, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? This is, you can't do nothing. He said, okay, I just wanted to see. Right? But I begged Penny and Teena to let me do a live album. Teena never got paid for Fire and Desire. Rick called her up at 1:30 in the morning to come to the studio and lay down her part. She never got paid. Never got credit, right? So now we're doing the Rick James and Teena Marie reunion tour. The Ohio players are opening. We're doing, we do 2 shows at Universal Amphitheater. And I say to Bobby Brooks, I said, Teena and Penny, please let me set up a recording. We can do a DVD, a live album, a booklet, a documentary. We'll get a film crew. They didn't want to pay for it. We did 2 shows in Universal Amphitheater, had a week off, and then we're going to Madison Square Garden, Felt Forum. Rick passed away in the week off.
How shocked were you? Were you aware that he was kind of messing around with stuff again?
Of course. He would come to rehearsals, and listen, Rick would tell you, I'm a junkie connoisseur. He would open up a whole ounce of weed. Hey, Stu, come roll this up, But, I just wasn't into that heavy and that other stuff heavy. Listen, I ain't no angel. I've had stuff up my nose, but I never shot nothing in my arm. But, and he had a pacemaker, and again, it wasn't the best idea, but I was, Penny had taken her daughter to school one morning, and then Bobby Brooks called me and said, Rick just passed away. I was like, oh, shit. We had to fight to get into his house. Rick had thrown a party at his house, and he never knew who was in his house at these parties. It was just so wild, right? So about 2 months later, he found somebody staying in his house from that party and caught her. And guess what he did? Made her his assistant. Instead of calling the cops, he made her his assistant. And when Rick died, she took over, and all of the pictures in the memorial program were of her and not of the family. It was the most disrespectful thing, you know, but that was Rick's life.
Wow, what a mess.
Yeah. And I begged them, let's do, because I was going to direct it. Penny and Teena were going to produce it. I was going to direct it. Bobby Brooks was going to engineer it. And Rick died, and they didn't want to pay for it. I was like, come on, y'all. You know, this is, let's do this. And then let's go to the garden and record the California shows and record the garden show, film and record it. And let's put it out on a DVD, live album.
How was his, were you at the Universal show then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how was his show though at that point?
We rehearsed. I pulled out all the bells. I had the biggest mirror ball I could find in LA. I didn't have a lot of budget, but I found the biggest mirror ball that I could find in LA. I had fog machines, I had police beacons, I had strobes, I had a star curtain, I had all the 70s tricks. So they would come from behind stage in the dark. The mirror ball would kind of shield them from the audience. And then as the mirror ball, and I lowered the mirror ball down to the stage. So as the mirror ball started spinning and lifting up with lights on it, then you see Teena and Rick. Oh.
Well, I don't just mean production value. So, I mean, I know Teena still had it up until the end because her last album was really strong even. But I'm just curious how much Rick could still bring it on stage, being the state he was in and just passing away a week later.
He you know, listen, he brought it. He brought it. You know, the band was fire. You know, Teena, and he wouldn't let Teena outshine him. But Teena was, you know, Rick was fire, man. And, you know, we had to do weeks off because of his health. He had to get into the airports with wheelchairs, you know, and he couldn't do but 2 shows at a time, back to back. You know, we couldn't do 3 shows in a row, back to back days. It was 2 shows and then go home. 2 shows and then go home. Let him rest, you know, and you know, it was just, and yeah, man, and we had to break into. I actually had his Rickenbacker bass, you know, and I was gonna keep it, but I knew his brothers, I knew his sisters, you know, I knew everybody but his mom. Matter of fact, I stayed up in Buffalo with them. He was, you know, listen, Rick was a wild child, but he had a heart of gold, you know, and actually he was gonna help me get the wedding ring for his sister. I was gonna marry his sister. And again, you know, Rick died in the week off, man. I could not believe it.
Did you
went to the funeral? Yeah, I went to the funeral, and Farrakhan was there. And I pulled out a joint and smoked it at the memorial. And Farrakhan's little cronies came out to me. What you doing smoking weed around Farrakhan? I said, do you know that Farrakhan used to be a calypso singer? And you know what calypso singers used to do? Smoke weed. What are you talking? This is Rick's day. Shaka Khan came to the funeral. Bunch of, you know. Yeah, man. I was going home. I was going home to Madison Square Garden in charge of the Rick James and Teena Marie show. I had set up all kinds of radio press, all kinds of radio, because I knew all of the DJs from the radio stations. We were going to go to this station and the Quiet Storm show and this show and that show. We were going to go 2 days before the show and just do stuff around. We were going to go to Ashford and Simpson's Club, and they have an open mic and hang out. Man, Rick and Valerie's brother Jimmy Simpson were best friends, cut buddies. I had it all set up. I was going to be the king of New York that weekend. On a Rick James, I was in charge of the Rick James show coming to New York. I couldn't believe it. And I said, "You motherfucker, you couldn't wait until you couldn't wait until we got you couldn't wait. Oh man, I was coming home to New York in charge of a Rick James show, man." If you go to remember when Sinbad did the funk festivals in the Caribbean?
Yep.
I mixed Teena, and I mixed the Ohio Players. They both were on that show. I mixed them both. And if you go to YouTube, have you seen that video?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I had at one point it was on a CD also, I think. But
Penny, the video opens up with the background singers, and Penny and Val Young are the background singers.
Ohio Players sounded pretty damn good on that show.
Listen, I could mix some funk music, man. I mixed the Ohio Players on that show. I wish that would come back. I wish somebody would do a festival like that.
Oh yeah.
Sinbad loved him some Teena Marie. Loved Teena Marie's drawers. He used to always come to the house. Used to always see Sinbad. Put us on that show. We were supposed to do the Olympics in Atlanta. Teena was supposed to do the Olympics in Atlanta, and we were on the way to the airport when the bomb hit. And had turned around and they canceled. On the way to the Atlanta Olympics, and the bomb hit. And matter of fact, let me see if I can, right? This was a shirt that Penny made up. It's been in the suitcase. This is on one side, under the arm, and this is the back. And this is Atlanta 96.
It looks almost brand new.
I have never worn it. I have never worn it. Yeah. And this was going to be our little group little thing she made up. Penny was very creative like that. Teena Marie. And then Atlanta 96. When the bomb hit Atlanta, they turned us back around and we never got to come.
Yeah. Was that 96? Was that 96?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Rick died on the, what album is that? She recorded a song called Romantica. Have you ever heard that song? Romantica.
Yeah, probably heard it, but not sure by name.
Okay. I gotta figure out the album that was on. She recorded this song and she said she dreamt it. And it was an ode to Rick. And she recorded it in one take. And the line that captures me out of that song is, now I'm going to have to sing by myself for everybody. And that, and I was in Teena's house. I was in Teena's house when Rick died, man. And then I couldn't marry Penny after that because she started drinking and everybody just started going crazy. And then Teena died in her house by herself. Right before, I think it was around holidays or something, she was in her house and had an epileptic fit and swallowed her tongue.
Did she have a history of that?
I hadn't known it since I had known her. She had never had a fit like that. But she was home, and the problem was she was home by herself. All by herself.
like Prince.
Yep.
Well, all I can say is they left us with fantastic music forever.
And it was, and it's just such a blessing.
Do you know if her kid's musical at all?
No, she does. She does. But it's not anything she wants to share with anybody. Not any career she wants to take up. She saw what. I haven't talked to Alia in years. My email address is stewmaster1, and she gave me that name. She said, "Oh, you the Stewmaster, huh?" I said, "Oh, that's nice. Okay, I'm gonna use that." So, in memory of Alia and Teena, my email address is stewmaster1. I wrote a funk music documentary some years ago, which I was trying to turn into a real, because I had seen the Eddie Griffin documentary on P-Funk and the Nelson George documentary on funk music, and they left the Commodores out. They had Nelson George as just a media suck up, but he really didn't know the real story. So his story was, the Commodores went straight from Tuskegee to California. No, they didn't go they stopped in New York first, So I had wrote a treatment for a funk music documentary that was going to be all inclusive. Because right now the world just thinks of funk music as Prince, Sly, George, the Isley Brothers, that are in the Hall of Fame. The Meters, but then there's like you said, there's 30 more groups that could fill up this Hall of Fame with ceremonies with those groups. LTD,
Average White Band.
Wild Cherry. Let's talk about the races and the genres of races. I'm on Napster, and I have a playlist that I call the top funk music songs in history, and my number one top funk music song is Slide. That epic song, Slide is such an epic song and an epic creativity. And from then on, you got to talk about the LTDs. Oh, let's talk about Atlanta. Mother's Finest.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to see them this Saturday.
Where?
They're playing in Kannapolis, North Carolina. Yeah.
But not with the girl's not there, right?
She's there.
Is she?
Joyce Kennedy's still singing.
Joyce still there?
Yeah.
Man.
They're still
Mother's
doing
Finest. It. Huh?
They're doing it for like 50 years now.
Mother's Finest, man. Okay, Fishbone. I was working for the Goody Mob, doing the house, CeeLo, Cujo, Timo Goody, and we did a tour with Goody Mob, De La Soul, and Fishbone. Woo, Fishbone.
Yeah, they give a wild show. I've seen them several times. Yeah.
I've been in the room with Antonio. They got books. He was in there stamping his books, doing his, man. Fishbone should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if they're not already.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even talked about people like Lakeside and
the whole Ohio. Zap Rogers should be in the Hall of Fame by now. Lakeside.
Frankly, I even think someone like The Time should get consideration.
Come on. Yeah. All of them. Because they were the industry. You got Aerosmith and Motley Crue and all of them. The dark side of the funk music is being overlooked, and you see how these people treat them like they never existed.
I don't know if you mentioned War, maybe you did, but I mean,
come on, ridiculous. Man. Don't let me go into my list, because I could just tell you all of them, man. And I got all of them. Average White Band,
It's easier to say the ones that are in. It's only Parliament Funkadelic, Earth, Wind and Fire, Sly Stone, James Brown, Prince, Michael Jackson,
Ozzy Brothers, because of their 60s, and then they moved over to funk. I don't play none of them 60 records from I just start with 3+3 and Fight the Power.
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah, there's only about maybe like 8 or something that's in out of 50.
And it's and you know, I hope to be going to this to the ceremony with Richie out in LA in November. And I wanted to, and the last time I saw Lester, I said, Lester, if I called you up and we did a news conference at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to boycott and find out why we're not into it, he said, would you? He said, man, just call me. I'm ready. The Chambers Brothers. That was the first group I saw in Mount Morris Park as a kid. Chambers Brothers. Mandrill.
Yeah, I was going to say Mandrill.
Okay. Who else I got on here? Rolls Royce. Average White Band.
Even a lot of the ones that we were talking about, like Barkays, Maze.
Graham Central Station. But straight funk, I just go for straight funk, man. And Kool and the Gang, of course, rest in peace, Khalees. Rest in peace, Dennis Thomas.
They're not in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And one of the Kool and the Gang's tour manager used to work for the Commodores. So we all were family. And he's told me the Hall of Fame's been promising Kool and the Gang for 20 years to be inducted. So what can we do, Scott? What can we do, man, to get some?
Well, I have my platform here. I keep pushing and hoping somebody's going to listen.
We got to go and make a visit. We got to organize a mass funk music visit to Cleveland and get on the front steps and chastise them. But we need Lester. We need Diamond.
Some actual
we need
artists. Yeah.
Right.
Some clout. Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever tried a petition of any kind?
Well, I've been, it's just, and then there's the rock, and then there's the Funk Music Hall of Fame in Dayton.
Right.
That's the avenue I would go in, get to that, and then have them broadcast it out to the world here. Get Tommy, get all these groups that are still working around. Steve Arrington, Unmasked, One Day. But it's just our people are not built like that. Cool, from Kool and the Gang, they would all come up. Let's just bum rush. Let's organize a big bum rush to get these people into Cleveland one day and have a mass media event. Why? And just put why. And then everybody come up right in front of the Hall of Fame and say, we're going to break down the door. And if we got to break down these doors to get in, we're going to break down the door. But who's in the tape? Who's in the room making these choices? I see the list of the nominees and the inductees, and Kool and the Gang's on there, the Commodores on there as a group, but they all down,
It's just a continuation of what's happened previously throughout history, and in my lifetime, just seeing it in the 70s with these groups not getting crossover radio play when they should have, and not getting the same considerations. Not go to YouTube and look for live videos of these bands, and most of them are impossible to find, but the rock groups, they all have videos.
And then they got the shows on Axis. I see a Motley show, they taping all, and these guys, I just saw a video of Bootsy doing with a symphony orchestra in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was rocking. And a young female conductor with all the youth orchestra playing all the parts.
That's a beautiful thing, man. That's a beautiful thing.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's soldiers that are watching this and will listen to it. If you can just help organize something that people can latch on to, I'm sure that plenty will,
Yeah. Well, let's try to do it together, man. Let's make a concerted effort to, and I mean, listen, we can do it in November with Richie's induction. Come out to LA.
They put in Dolly Parton, and you heard that she said that I don't even think I should be going in because I'm not really rock, So you got people going in that don't even think they should go in, and all these deserving bands are being completely overlooked.
And to be honest with you, Scott, funk music is black rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
It's just black rock and roll. The guitars, the basses, the musicianship, the lead singer, they all have their counterparts in white rock. This is the black rock and roll.
Well, even a lot of white rock and roll, like Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, a lot of it is pretty funky.
Peter Gabriel, you know what I'm saying? Edgar Winter.
Yeah.
What? That's one of my favorite. Frankenstein is one of my favorite songs.
Tell me, Stuart, if you could only have 5 funk albums, what 5 would they be for the rest of the time?
Well, it would have to be Mothership Connection. The Brothers Johnsons, either Blam or Look Out for Number One. Get the Funk Out My Face. My favorite all-time live recording is Give It Up or Turn It Loose by James Brown, the Black Album. When the Bootsy's first, right?
Yeah.
Give It Up or Turn It Loose, that album, that Black Album. But just that one song, just the Give It Up or Turn It Loose, that when Bootsy
Catfish.
and them,
Yeah.
right, Catfish, Collins and Bootsy, and that was first, right? Cameo, I could pick 3 Cameo albums. Strange, Candy, Word Up, they all got.
Well, Word Up and Candy are on the same one.
Okay, so then let's go Word Up. Mothership Connection, Brothers Johnson, A Slave, Stone Jam, probably the Commodores album with Fancy Dancer on it, Hot on the Tracks.
Yeah, well, you got 5. Definitely have hit 5 already. So, and those are definitely among my favorites too. So, yeah, you went right for the
jugular.
Yeah, the series, like the top funk level of like all those groups. Brothers Johnson, Blam, their first record, definitely to me are their funkiest records, and the ones where Lewis like really gets off.
Stomp, that guitar, that bass solo on Stomp, that's epic.
Just Ain't We Funkin' Now, his bass on that.
And funkin', yeah, man. So Heat Wave, always, yeah, man. You can't do 5, man. I started my
Connection's an easy one though.
Yeah, Mothership Connection is the live one, or P-Funk Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, P-Funk Live.
Earth Tour.
Yeah.
So what are you up to right now? What's what are you doing, man?
I'm doing a rap group, Little Yachty. That's who I'm going to Miami with this weekend, and that's who I'm working for now. The guy that runs the tour for Little Yachty was one of Rick James' first crew members.
Does he have a band?
Little Yachty?
Or just a DJ?
Just a DJ. The easiest gig in the world. I run in front of house with just a DJ and just a rapper and 2 hype men. But our tour manager used to work for Rick. So we have that connection, and he knows all of Rick's family. I knew all of Rick's family. We just saw the Rick James, the documentary by his daughter. Did you see that?
The one on Showtime?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, but again, that wasn't a true documentary of Rick, because she just used old concert footage that's already been out. She never interviewed, the real band or the real players.
One thing I did like about it, though, was it did give some attention to before he became big. And I didn't know as much about his earlier years as that showed.
I got a photo of Rick when he defected to Canada to get out of the draft. He was in a group up there. I got a picture. I got a picture. Hot Lips, a group called Hot Lips.
He was like a rock lead singer.
Right. And one of the guys on that picture has roller skates on in the band. Right. But that was his Canada before, because he used to work with Neil Diamond. Neil
Young.
Neil Young.
Yeah, before Motown.
Come on, when he was 19 years old?
Yeah.
So, just to keep these guys, I just want to be the champion to get these guys in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's kind of.
Do you want to give out your contact info again in case anyone watching or listening to this wants to try to get involved with that cause?
Sure. You can catch me on Facebook. I'm under Stuart Gray. My Facebook is open to all the public. You see all of my photos. My email address is stewmaster1@gmail.com. If I could have one last tour, one last Sinbad Funk Music Festival somewhere in the world, LaPred and I were talking about if Richie did come back, then we have 10 shows and then start, a reunion.
You need someone to support it that has money and connections. Like Sinbad was able to pull that off. Maybe if he can't do it anymore, I don't know, maybe someone like a Kevin Hart or somebody. I'm not sure.
A Magic Johnson or, somebody like that. But, so it takes, and I'm not, and I've always been, on this level. I'm not suit and tie guy, but I wish Live Nation would promote something like that, but again, there's nobody in the room at Live Nation that has any kind of those sensibilities. And there's nobody in the Hall of Fame committee, voting committee that has those sensibilities until we push through. Now we have to push through and break down the wood and break down the glass.
Yeah.
Bust through the door.
Hell yeah.
So I'm willing to make that trip, and all you funk music fans, let's get some, and it's not going to take but a couple of guys. Lester Trotman would be in my corner, in a heartbeat. Diamond would be in my corner, Cool from Corner Gang. Just take those three guys. Let's go up to Cleveland. Let's push. Let's get a media, a media push, and invite all the people out and set up a press conference and come out right in front of the steps, get a microphone with a bullhorn right in front of the steps of the Hall of Fame and say, hey, somebody let us in.
And just get some video coverage and get it out to some channels.
And make that noise, and that's what I plan to do. When I go and see Richie get his induction, and that's what I plan to do. Get on somebody's mic and say, what? WTF? What? Why? And what?
What the funk? Yeah.
What the funk, man? And the only person picking up the mantle now is as close as Bruno Mars.
Mm.
He understands that this is where, Charlie and Lester and Roger came from,
And now, if he could campaign for why these guys aren't in, I mean, They just redid Love's Train, you know.
Right. A Confunction song.
Yeah.
And the manager of the Confunction, she contacted me because matter of fact, Confunction is the first group that put my name on the back of their album as part of the crew.
Which album do you know?
The Red album.
Touch?
I think I sent. Which one?
Was it Touch? Touch is kind of a reddish pinkish color.
No. Spirit of Love.
Spirit of Love, yes.
Spirit of Love album.
It's Got to Be Enough on that one?
Huh?
Got to Be Enough, I think it's on that.
And then Slave put my name on the back of the album, the Showtime album.
Okay.
Slave Road Patrol. We were the Slave Road Patrol.
Because you're on Funkintown, yeah.
Right, and I'm on Funkintown. We got to have this Funkintown. Funk with the serious chunk.
Yeah.
Huh? Man. So listen, man, thanks a lot again, and peace.
Peace to you, man. Take care, Stuart.
Peace. Thank you, Scott.
All right.
Thank you, world.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkinstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkinstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkinstuff.net, and linking through funkinstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkinstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkinstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.